in terms of Hong Kong and Burma, it might be quite different in terms of background from what's happening in Russia and Belarus. But what's one point I think that's the same, and that would be useful, is solidarity measures, solidarity actions. And people would ask whether it will be useful at all, whether it will be effective to have solidarity actions. My answer is yes, and it's useful. For example, when seeing what's happening in Burma, in Belarus, and also in Thailand, I think what we can do so far away in another part of the world is going to the embassies and going to the consulate office in our own countries to protest against that evil regimes that's been cracking down on its people. I've organized one before, together with the Multi Alliance, when the protesters in Thailand is being cracked down brutally by the police. I was in the Hong Kong's, Thailand's consulate office outside protesting with a lot of strength, and a lot of a big crowd joined. When the crackdown happened in Burma, Hong Kongers in London were protesting. I was the first, almost the first one to raise the idea we should go ahead to protest at the Burmese embassies, but it's actually during lockdown in London that time. But later on it happened. So it's making international attentions and pressures, especially in relatively free countries in the UK. So they have freedom of media. So solidarity also can happen inside institutions. Back 1 year ago, when I was still in Parliament, I was a legislator myself. I seriously thought about bringing in a flag of a Belarusian's protest flag, the red and white one, into our chamber in our Parliament, and also the flag of the Multi Alliance into our Parliament. I think this is something that we can do in countries that still have some degree of freedoms. When in Hong Kong at that time, we were still allowed to do that, bringing in flags, protest flags of other countries. Then make use of Hong Kong being a more internationally concerned city to have that effect of speaking for peoples in the dark age in Belarus, in Russia. So this is what we can do. Solidarity is very important, even though we are remote, but we share the same spirit, and making sure that people, even though they are not reported on international news, they are not forgotten at all.
I guess I just want to add a little bit more on what Ted has described. A big shout out to Multi Alliance in Asia, and it's been incredible. It's actually what we are witnessing today with these alliances and solidarities among the people is that the power of people and the power of connectivity among us, while the leaders, the governments are failing to hold the authoritarian regimes accountable. People coming together as a people is the most powerful tool that we have today, and we're utilizing it. And technology gives us a more opportunity to advance it. So seeing this solidarities and like support among each other has been incredible. And oftentimes our part of Asia is overlooked, while we have authoritarianism in almost all countries, and currently the Thailand is, as Ted who mentions, is another major country of concerns that we have to show solidarity and support. So yeah, this been the Multi Alliance in Asia has been doing incredible work, and we are very grateful for that. And also we've been seeing the more connectivity among the civil society groups. In the case of Myanmar, the human rights groups, civil society groups, women's rights groups are supporting in directly or indirectly with many capacities, over 180 organizations working for women's human rights and democracy joined my organizations to urge the UN Security Council to hold Myanmar military leader accountable. All of this support has been very empowering for us to keep the spirit and hope alive. And so, I believe we have to stand together. The solidarity of the people is more powerful than ever. And together, I'm sure, there will be able to defeat all of these authoritarian regimes. Thank you.
Oh, if I can
Thank
add
you.
one point very quickly.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and that also relates to what I've been doing. So especially for the case of Hong Kong. So we have quite many Hong Kongers overseas. They either migrated or either in exiles. But those Hong Kongers, they have a lot of skills. They have a lot of capitals. They have a lot of social connections, international connections. We make use of that and to organize ourselves and as enlarging our stake as stakeholder in our respective countries where we live in. So we believe this is important because only if we are able to persuade the general public in our respective countries so that politicians will change. And so to build a more value-based approach to counter the economic-based approach of quite many countries like kowtowing towards China. So I believe this is important to have a diasporic civil societies strengthened. And this is not only for Hong Kong. For example, now in Chinese embassies in different cities, not only Hong Kongers, but we call for others, ethnics and other nationals to protest against the regimes, the wrongdoers, the human rights abusers in front of their embassies. So we grow all together internationally and strengthen civil society internationally. And that's something I'm doing. That's something I believe is also important.